So you say Buddha nature is our true nature. So in the most real sense, we are one with the Buddha, that everyone has Buddha mind or Buddha nature. So these are the four slogans associated with Bodhidharma, who brought the Dharma to China. So now some different teachings from Suzuki Roshi, and we'll see if we can make any sense whatsoever out of it, and see if we can translate it into our own terms. Student asks, I have some trouble with the lecture that you gave the other night. I'd like you to say one more thing about it, but I don't know what. Many people are puzzled by Zen talk. In fact, it's supposed to puzzle you. I can't quite see what it's all about. I do understand what it's about when you're talking about opposite and things like that. So that's a very candid question, isn't it? And then Suzuki Roshi, unlike some of Zen teachers, didn't want to obfuscate or confuse. He wanted to illuminate. That's one of the great things about him. I've met some so-called Zen masters in my life who were professional obfuscators, which meant that they talked Zen. See, even though Zen wants to be free of all dogma, inevitably, because there's an irony in all these things. Whatever you try hard to avoid, you generally fall victim to in the end. And so some of the lesser ones become victim of Zen style. And so they adopt a certain Zen persona. And so it defeats the purpose, really. But Suzuki Roshi is not like that. He says, the purpose of what I'm saying is to open a different approach to your understanding of reality. Now that right away is a very interesting thing, because one thing that Baba did for me is he opened a new way of thinking about things, a new understanding that was outside my possibility, created new possibilities. So he says, you're observing things from just one side or the other, and you stick to some one-sided understanding. That's why I'm talking this way. It's necessary. So he's saying that he's giving paradoxical teaching to shake us out of positionality, whatever position. Politically, you might be a left-winger or a right-winger. And the left-wingers think that the left-wing way of looking at things is not only a good way, it's the truth. And the right-wingers think that the right-wing way of looking at things is not only a good way, it's the truth. And Suzuki Roshi would say, now you look this way, then you look this way. And neither is the truth. He says, strictly speaking, Buddhists have no teaching. Buddhists have no teaching. I love that. It's just completely free and present. We have no God or deities. We don't have anything. Of course, that's not all forms of Buddhism are like that. What we have is nothingness, that's all. What did Bhagavananda say? It's all dust. That was his most real statement. It's all dust. So that's what he's saying, there's nothing. So how is it possible for Buddhists to be religious? You can only be religious if you have some deities or something. What kind of... so that will be the question. The answer is not some special idea of God or a deity, but rather the understanding of the reality we're always facing. Where are we? What are we doing? Who is he? Who is she? When we observe things in this way, we don't need a special teaching about God because everything is God for us. Moment after moment, we are facing God. And each one of us is also God or Buddha. So we don't need any special idea of God. That may be the point. I love that. That's the point. He says, that may be the point. I'm not sure, but... so what's he saying? What's he saying? He's addressing the mind, saying, don't be locked in to a particular point of view. And also, live your life fully present. Live very intensely now without concepts, but be here. This is a longer lecture from him. And he says, and this is a very mysterious Zen-like piece. If you want to understand Buddhism, it's necessary for you to forget all your preconceived ideas. You could say that if you want to know God, you have to let go of all your preconceived ideas. Whatever you think of God, limit God. So you have to be open to whatever the experience is. He says, to begin with, you must give up the idea of substantiality or existence. The usual view of life is firmly rooted in the idea of existence. For most people, everything exists. They think whatever they see and whatever they hear exists. Of course, the bird we see and hear exists. It exists, but what I mean by that may not be exactly what you mean. The Buddhist understanding of life includes both existence and non-existence. What does this remind you of in our frame of reference, or your frame of reference? What's he getting at there? Do you get something from that? Think of Vedanta. What does Vedanta say? It's all an illusion. It's all an illusion. He says, the bird both exists and does not exist at the same time. We say that a view of life based on existence alone is heretical. That's a funny word, isn't it? If you take things too seriously, as if they existed substantially or permanently, you're called a heretic. Most people may be heretics. So what is he evoking here? If your mind is too locked into physical reality, if your mind is just mundane and taking everything at face value, he'd say you're a heretic. So in our terms, what we have to do is wash our mind in higher consciousness. It's not just mundane reality, but there's some higher truth that we can contact. We call it the Shakti, or the spirit, or the self. And so he says, we say true existence comes from emptiness and goes back again into emptiness. Kashmir Shaven says it comes from consciousness and goes back again into consciousness. What appears from emptiness is true existence. We have to go through the gate of emptiness. We have to go through the gate of emptiness. We have to deconstruct all of our wrong understandings. This idea of existence is very difficult to explain. Many people these days have begun to feel, at least intellectually, the emptiness of the modern world, or the self-contradiction of their culture. So I know that was part of the crisis that I went through before I went to India in the 60s, of being successively disappointed by different ambitions and goals that I had. And each one I had high hopes for as I started, and then I'd say, oh, that's not really it. And I was really idealistic enough to say, I want something that has some meaning. I didn't want anything and just to follow an empty path. So he says, in the past, for instance, the Japanese people had a firm confidence in the permanent existence of their culture and their traditional way of life. But since they lost the war, they've become very skeptical. Very interesting cultural thing, that they believed in the emperor and all of that and so on. And then they lost the war, they became disenchanted. When you throw yourself into something and then it gets busted in some way, and you're left cynical sometimes. He says, some people think this skeptical attitude is awful, but actually is better than the old attitude, he says. Better to be disillusioned than to be in the old illusion, which was not true. He says, as long as we have some definite idea about or some hope for the future, we cannot really be serious with the moment that exists right now. You may say, I can do it tomorrow or next year. believing that something that exists today will exist tomorrow. Even though you're not trying so hard, you expect that some promising thing will come, as long as you follow a certain way. But there's no certain way that exists permanently. There is no way set up for us. Moment after moment, we have to find our own way. Some idea of perfection or some perfect way which is set up by someone else is not the true way for us. What he's really calling on us to live in this moment intensely. Don't put anything off. You get it together right now. Do what you need to do right now. He says, each one of us must make his own true way. And when we do that, that way will express the universal way. So we can ask, what does the Shakti want of me right now? What is the most Shakti-filled way I can live this moment or this day? Every day when we wake up, we can ask, what can I do that will increase my connection to God, to the Shakti, to the self, to the Guru? What can I do today? To live more in the spirit. Very good way of contemplating. How can I lift my life up into joy, into illumination? He says, this is the mystery. When you understand one thing through and through, you understand everything. When you try to understand everything, you will not understand anything. The best way is to understand yourself. So what is the one thing you need to understand? Yourself. And then you'll understand everything. So when you try hard to make your own way, you'll help others, and you'll be helped by others. So if you walk the path of connecting deeper in yourself, the whole world will help you, and you'll help the world. Before you make your own way, you cannot help anyone, and no one can help you. To be independent in this true sense, we have to forget everything that we have in our mind and discover something quite new and different moment after moment. This is how we live in the world.